I still remember the exact second my career was publicly buried. Not quietly, not gently, not behind closed doors. It happened in a room designed to intimidate. Glass walls, polished wood, leather chairs that creaked when you shifted your weight, like they were reminding you that movement itself was a risk. I had sat at that table hundreds of times before. I had argued at that table, defended systems at that table, built futures at that table. And that morning, I sat there knowing something was wrong before a single word was spoken. There's a smell to rooms like that. Expensive cologne mixed with recycled air and nervous ambition. You can feel it in your chest. A kind of pressure that tells you someone has already decided your fate, and the meeting is just a performance. He stood at the head of the table, younger than me, louder than me, wearing confidence like a costume he hadn't earned. He didn't look at his notes when he spoke. He didn't need to. This wasn't analysis. It was theater. He said my name the way people say a word they've grown tired of. Then he said it. Obsolete. Not outdated systems, not shifting priorities, not restructuring. Me. Obsolete. The room didn't react right away. That's the thing about public humiliation in professional spaces. People don't gasp. They don't rush to defend you. They freeze. They look down. They pretend to take notes. They let the silence do the damage. I felt it hit before I felt anything else. A sharp, burning pressure behind my eyes. Not shock, not disbelief, rage. The kind that rises so fast it almost chokes you. The kind that wants you to stand up and dismantle everything with words. I didn't. I stayed still. I had learned long ago that yelling in rooms like that doesn't make you powerful. It makes you disposable. Anger is expected. Calm is not. So I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I let him keep talking. He used words like efficiency and modernization. He talked about speed, disruption, fresh energy. He talked about me like I was furniture that had stopped matching the decor. Something bulky, something inconvenient. I looked around the table while he spoke, at the faces of people who knew the truth, people who had called me at midnight when things broke, people who had relied on systems I built without ever learning how they worked. They didn't meet my eyes. That hurt more than the word obsolete, because betrayal doesn't always look like aggression. Sometimes it looks like silence. When he finally stopped talking, he expected something. An outburst, a defense, tears. He wanted the story to end with him victorious and me diminished. I stood up instead, slowly. I gathered my notebook, my pen, the small things that were mine. I didn't slam anything. I didn't rush. I didn't speak. Calm is terrifying when people expect you to break. As I stood there, my mind did something strange. It stopped, replaying the insult, and started inventorying facts. I thought about the systems I had designed from nothing, the infrastructure that had grown under my hands, piece by piece. I thought about nights spent tracing failures that no one else even knew existed, about fixes deployed quietly so disasters never made headlines. I thought about how much of this company ran on things no one in that room understood, and I realized something. They didn't know what they depended on. That realization didn't soothe the anger, it sharpened it. Because ignorance at that level isn't just incompetence, it's arrogance with a salary. As I reached the door, my phone vibrated. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something made me stop. Maybe instinct, maybe timing, maybe the universe finally deciding to stop watching and start participating. I looked at the screen. It wasn't a number I didn't recognize. It was a name. Someone from outside. Someone with power. Someone who had tried to recruit me more than once. Someone whose organization dwarfed the one I was being expelled from. The room noticed the pause. He noticed it. He rolled his eyes and told me to take my call outside. I didn't. I answered it, and I put it on speaker. The voice on the other end didn't hesitate. It didn't hedge. It didn't whisper. It said my name with urgency, with respect, with relief. It talked about problems they couldn't solve without me, about work I had done that still circulated quietly in serious circles, about how fast they needed me, about compensation that made the word obsolete collapse under its own stupidity. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I watched the color drain from the face of the man who had just erased me. He laughed at first. Nervous laughter, defensive laughter, the kind people use when reality threatens their ego. He told me to take the offer, told me I was welcome to leave, told me they didn't need me. That was the moment he sealed his fate, because doubling down on ignorance is not confidence. It's a refusal to learn. I ended the call calmly, thanked them, promised to follow up. Then I handed over my badge, my laptop, every piece of company property. I touched nothing else. I walked out clean. That part matters, more than people realize, because when consequences arrive later, clean exits make them undeniable. I didn't sabotage anything. I didn't delete anything. I didn't warn anyone. I didn't leave instructions or threats or notes. I simply stopped being there. And absence is louder than people expect. The first few days were quiet, almost peaceful. I slept more than I had in years. I drank coffee that didn't go cold while I was fixing someone else's emergency. I ignored messages I was no longer obligated to answer. Then the cracks began. Small ones at first. Delays, confusion, systems behaving in ways no one could explain, people blaming the wrong things, restarting processes that were never meant to be restarted, treating architecture like a suggestion instead of a foundation. I stayed silent. That silence wasn't kindness, it was restraint. Because when you warn people who already dismissed you, they don't hear wisdom, they hear ego, and I wasn't interested in being heard. I was interested in being right. The failures cascaded the way I knew they would, slowly, predictably, painfully. Leadership panicked, consultants were hired, meetings multiplied, solutions stacked on top of problems instead of replacing them. Every fix introduced 3 new risks. Then came the accusation. They implied sabotage. Claim documentation was missing, suggested I had withheld information. That accusation hurt, not because it threatened me, but because it confirmed exactly who they were. I responded with facts, policies, contracts, receipts, timelines. I didn't argue emotion. I didn't defend my character. I didn't insult them back. I let paper speak. Paper is merciless. That's when the tone changed. That's when they asked for help. Not respectfully, not humbly, desperately. They wanted me to come back, to fix it, to restore order, to save what they had broken. They offered apologies wrapped in incentives, promises wrapped in urgency, power wrapped in fear. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired. But I also felt something else, leverage. So I refused emotionally. I didn't forgive. I didn't reconcile. I didn't return. I offered terms, professional terms, money, ownership, control, no negotiations. Because revenge isn't shouting, it's structure. They agreed. Of course they did. I fixed the problem efficiently, elegantly, without restoring dependence on me as a person, only on my work. I made sure the solution required licensing, maintenance, respect. Then I left again, this time permanently. The company survived, barely, slower, smaller, no longer leading, no longer bold. I thrived elsewhere, and the man who called me obsolete, he lost influence quietly. Titles changed, responsibilities shifted. He stopped speaking so loudly in rooms. No one ever apologized properly. That's fine. I didn't want apologies. I wanted accuracy. And now, years later, when I think about that moment in the boardroom, the anger is still there. The pain still sharp, but it's tempered by something stronger, understanding. They didn't destroy me. They revealed themselves. And I learned something that day I carry into every room now. Leverage beats anger. Competence outlasts ego. Silence used correctly is not weakness, it's strategy. And I never forgot that.